Hello, my name's John. I'm going to be teaching you for this session. Let's begin.
In this video, we are going to look at how we would convert between different metric units of measure. This is also known as measure conversions. In order to do these conversions, we must be able to multiply and divide by 10, 100 and 1000. If you are unsure of how to do this, you should watch our multiplying and dividing videos on 10, 100 and 1000 first. It's important to remember that depending on the type of object or thing that we are measuring, we will use different forms of measure. Let's start by looking at some metric units of length. If we are trying to work out the length of something, it is usually the measure of an object or a distance from one point to another. Depending on the size or the distance being measured, we will use the appropriate units of measure. As you can see here with length, we have various units of measure, going from the smallest measurement, which is millimeters, to the largest measurement in length, which is kilometres. Millimeters can be abbreviated to mm. We can see on our ruler that millimeters are very small increments of measure. For example, you could use them to measure the length of a very small ant. We can also see centimetres on our ruler, which can be abbreviated to cm. They are slightly larger increments of measure, as we can see here. For example, they could be used to measure the length of a toy car. We also have metres, which is a larger unit of measure again. It is abbreviated with the letter m. For example, metres could be used to measure the length of a football pitch. We then have a larger unit of measure again, which is kilometres, and this can be abbreviated to km. We would use this, for example, if we were trying to measure a distance from one town to another. Now let's take a look at mass, also commonly known as weight. This is the measure of how much matter there is in an object, or the weight of an object. As before, we can see that they have different units of measure, starting with grams, which is the smallest, and going right up to tons. Grams can be abbreviated with the letter G and are used to weigh very small objects. For example, a paperclip would weigh around 1 gram. Kilograms can be abbreviated as kg and are larger increments of weight, used to measure things like a bag of sugar or even a person. Tons are much larger increments of weight used to weigh heavier objects, for example, an elephant. When we refer to volume, that is, the amount of space taken up by a 3D shape. Again, we can see the units of measure going from the smallest to the largest. Cubic millimetres can be abbreviated as mm with a small 3 at the end. Cubic centimetres, which are slightly larger, can be abbreviated as cm with a small 3 at the end. Metres, which are much larger measures of volume, are abbreviated as m with a small 3 at the end. Capacity is the maximum amount that something can contain, and again we can see that there are different units of measure. Our smaller units of measure are millilitres, and they are abbreviated as ml, and our larger units of measure are litres, and they are abbreviated with an L. Millilitres and litres can be measured on this jug. You can see the different incremental jumps. It's important to remember that you need 1000 millilitres to make up 1 litre. Now that we understand our units of measure, let's take a look at how we would convert between these units of measure. We will start off by looking at length. There are 10 millimetres in 1 centimetre, there are 100 centimetres in 1 metre, and there are 1000 metres in 1 kilometre. To convert millimetres to centimetres, we divide by 10 because there are 10 millimetres in 1 centimetre. To convert centimetres to millimetres, we would multiply by 10. To convert centimetres to metres, we divide by 100 because there are 100 centimetres in 1 metre. To convert metres to centimetres, we multiply by 100. To convert metres to kilometres, we divide by 1000 as there are 1000 metres in 1 kilometre. To convert kilometres to metres, we multiply by 1000. So if I were asked to convert 5 metres to centimetres, I would multiply by 100. We use our knowledge of our place value columns to do this. If we're multiplying by 100, we move 2 spaces to the left. This means that our answer is 500 centimetres. We now know that 5 metres is the same as 500 centimetres. If I were asked to convert 7,400 metres to kilometres, I would divide by 1,000. Again, we will use our knowledge of our place value columns to do this. We know that if we are dividing by 1,000, all of our numbers will move 3 column places to the right, like this. From our conversion, we can see that 7,400 metres is the same as 7.4 kilometres. Now it's your turn to do some length conversions. To have a light bulb moment, remember to use your place value column grid if needed, and double check whether you should be multiplying or dividing. Why don't you stop the video now to give yourself a chance to do your working out, and start it again to see if you got them all correct. Let's see if you got the correct answers. With our first one, 6 metres to centimetres, you should have multiplied by 100, giving you 600 centimetres. 4.5 kilometres to metres, you should have multiplied by 1000, which gives 4,500 metres. 350 centimetres to metres, you should have divided by 100, which gives you 3.5 metres. 565 millimetres, you should have divided by 10, which gives you 56.5 centimetres. And 7 centimetres to millimetres, you should have multiplied by 10, which gives you 70 millimetres. Did you get them all correct? Now let's take a look at some metric units of mass or weight. We use the same method as we used with length to work out our conversions. We can see that 1,000 grams equals 1 kilogram, and 1,000 kilograms equals 1 tonne. This means to convert grams to kilograms, we would divide by 1,000 as there are 1,000 grams in 1 kilogram, and to convert kilograms to grams, we would multiply by 1,000. Likewise, if we are converting kilograms to tonnes, we would divide by 1,000 again because there are 1,000 kilograms in 1 tonne, and to convert tonnes to kilograms, we would multiply by 1,000. So if I were asked to convert 4.7 kilograms to grams, I would take my 4.7 times that by 1,000, and that would give me 4,700 grams. If I were asked to convert 4,000 kilograms to tonnes, I would take my 4,000, divide it by 1,000, which would give me 4 tonnes. Now it's your turn. Why don't you try to complete this conversion table of grams, kilograms and tonnes? Remember to use your place value column grid if needed, and also double check whether you should be multiplying or dividing. Stop the video now so you can do your working out, and restart the video to see if you got your answers correct. Hopefully you got all of these answers correct. If you made any errors, you should check that you have multiplied and divided by the correct amounts, as this is usually where people can make simple errors. Now let's look at volume and how we would convert these units. We can see that 1,000 millimetres cubed is the same as 1 centimetre cubed. So to convert between millimetres cubed to centimetres cubed, we would divide by 1,000. To convert between centimetres cubed and millimetres cubed, we would multiply by 1,000. We could also look at converting to metres cubed, but it is a much more difficult and complex equation and is not needed at this point. To do these conversions, all we have to do is to use the same method as we have been doing previously. So to convert 7 centimetres cubed to millimetres cubed, all we have to do is multiply by 1,000, which would give us 7,000 millimetres cubed. To convert 3,456 millimetres cubed to centimetres cubed, all we would do is divide by 1,000, which would give us an answer of 3.456 centimetres cubed. Finally, let's look at capacity and how we would convert between those units of measure. We can see that we have 1,000 millilitres, which equals 1 litre. To convert millilitres to litres, we divide by 1,000, as there are 1,000 millilitres in 1 litre. To convert litres to millilitres, we would multiply by 1,000, like this. So if I were asked to convert 7.6 litres to millilitres, I would multiply 7.6 by 1,000 to give me 7,600 millilitres. If I were asked to convert 5,835 millilitres to litres, I would divide by 1,000, which would give me 5.835 litres. Now it's time to look at an exam-style question and how we would use our knowledge of measure conversions to get our answer. Our question asks, which length is the odd one out? From our table you can see that we have lengths that are given using different units of measure. That presents a bit of a problem. If they were all given using the same units of measure, it would be very easy to see which is the odd one out. My advice would be to change them all into the one unit of measure. So for example, I'm going to do conversions and convert them all into centimetres and then compare them. Why don't you stop the video now to give yourself an opportunity to do this? Then start the video again to see if your conversions were correct and if you were able to work out which was the odd one out. I'm going to start by converting 47,000 millimetres into centimetres. I know that there are 10 millimetres in 1 centimetre, so I'm going to divide 47,000 by 10, which would give me 4,700 centimetres. The next box is already in centimetres, and it also says 4,700 centimetres. I can see the first box and the second box are similar as they have the same amount of centimetres. I'm now going to look at 47 metres and convert that to centimetres. To do that conversion, I know that there are 100 centimetres in 1 metre. So I'll write down 47 times 100, which gives me 4,700 centimetres. We can see by now that 3 of the boxes have exactly the same amount of centimetres. Let's check our last box to see if it also has the same or a different amount of centimetres. Our last box is in kilometres. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to convert kilometres to metres. Once I've done that, I will then convert the metres into centimetres. I will take my 0.47 kilometres and I will multiply that by 1,000 because there are 1,000 metres in a kilometre. That gives me an answer of 470 metres. I will now take the 470 metres and I will multiply that by 100. As there are 100 centimetres in a metre, this gives me an answer of 47,000 centimetres. We can see from the conversions that we have completed that 3 of them have 4,700 centimetres and the last one is 47,000 centimetres. So the last one is the odd one out. Another worthwhile conversion to understand is that 1 millilitre is the same as 1 centimetre cubed. So for example, if I had 1 millilitre of liquid in my jug and I poured it into this little cube, it would fill the cube perfectly. The same can be said for 1,000 millilitres. That would obviously be the same as 1,000 centimetres cubed. To be successful and have a light bulb moment with measure conversions, remember to learn the basic conversions of length, mass or weight, volume and capacity. For example, 1 metre equals 100 centimetres, 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams and so on. You should check you have used the correct operation when converting, for example multiplying or dividing. Use or draw a place value grid if necessary. Ensure decimal points are positioned in the correct place in your conversions. Write the correct units of measure in your answer, for example, litres, grams, centimetres, and so on. I hope you have enjoyed learning about measure conversions.